amongst all of this, beyond what my political alignments with this declaration of war might be, the loudest thought I've had is the human cost of this is not worth whoever is to blame, whatever the cause is, whatever the end is, right? And the human cost of this, I believe, will go past, if this war escalates, will go past just the northern region. The Tigray region and TPLF are very militarily capable to take this war further than that. The only way that I can see it ending is if the TPLF submits, which you just said it's probably not likely if your intention in coming into a people's space is their submission. You're probably not going to get that submission, right? And so then the other alternative is that if the federal government retracts, because they are the ones who have said, based on the context they've created, we're going to war with you, right? They've won to wage this war, which I don't see them retracting either. What is your read on this so far based on what you know? I know you made a statement about it as well, a small one, and you've been thinking about it as well.
You know, when leaders arrogate to themselves the monopoly of knowledge and wisdom, history has been consistent. They lead their countries through shortcuts to chaos. That is the lesson of history. History is also replete with centers that have used force to retain the unity of the nation. The whole idea of the American and the prosecution of the American Civil War was informed by this, that when the Confederates wanted to leave, Abraham Lincoln prosecuted a war to retain the United States of America as we know it. Then we know that a similar war was prosecuted in Nigeria to ensure that Biafra, which had declared UDI, was retained within federal Nigeria. We now see what is happening in the Addis Ababa government is they hold the view, at least from what I see, that the Tigray region is actually seceding. And therefore they are saying that they cannot allow that to happen. The state known as Ethiopia must be protected at all costs, because if Tigray succeeds, it will send a message to other components of Ethiopia and there will be no Ethiopia. That I think must be the thinking at the center. But yet I believe, and this is the question that I keep on asking, what is the end game?
You're saying
the end game, as you rightly said, is normally to subdue and subjugate, so that you remain a part of us willy-nilly. But does it solve the problem? History says it does not. And a good example is Nigeria, where the federal government subdued the Biafrans, and Gawan said, there is no victor, there is no vanquished. And his famous statement, the statement after he said that was that the victors did not gloat, and those who were subdued were not humiliated. But yet, right now, in Nigeria, we see the emergence of the Indigenous Peoples Organization, IPOB, which tells you that the seeds once planted will always go into comatose, then they germinate again. My own view is that Prime Minister Abiy should, in the nature of things, convene an emergency meeting of all the components of the Ethiopian state to re-examine the grievances. I think what they intend to do is to put the Tigray people into a state where they can negotiate, which is a tactic also, that you push them and you are in control so that when they come to the negotiating table, they are weak. But that is also not a good tactic. You don't beat the component units of your state using missiles. I mean, you are destroying infrastructure which you have an obligation to build anyway. You are cutting your nose to spite your face. I think, and this is the prescription that I hear, I think the African Union has spoken about it. I don't know whether the UN has spoken about it. A number of individuals have spoken about it. Call a meeting in Addis Ababa, and as it is now, I think that the leadership of Tigray will not be willing to come to Addis Ababa, which is unfortunate. Even if it is a neutral country, let it be done and done very quickly. This war should not go beyond this week, the coming week.
Yeah.
If it does, then we are going to witness a guerrilla movement.
Yeah.
And you don't fight guerrilla because you can only win when the war is conventional. If it becomes guerrilla, then it can be sustained for years to the detriment of the country. And we have seen that in Yemen. You don't want that happening in Ethiopia. And I hope that Prime Minister Abiy will listen to good counsel, that there's not going to be a military solution to this problem. And the Tigray have a history of fighting and fighting to the death. And they are going to fight because they will not accept to be humiliated. And one would have loved to see also, and I've said it myself to the extent that is valuable, the African Union and the leadership in the Horn coming out and making demands of the Abiy administration in this regard, and people also making demands of the TPLF in